They never taught you how to win. They taught you how to obey, how to blend in, how to be liked. But this world doesn't reward obedience. It rewards control, power, ruthlessness disguised as charm. If you're here to be kind, turn this off. But if you're here to dominate every situation life throws at you, keep listening. Here, we don't chase peace, we forge power. Niccolo Machiavelli didn't write for the moral man. He wrote for the man who wanted to rule. He wrote for the ones who understand that life is not fair and that fairness is a weapon of the weak. He said, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." That's not just a quote, that's a law, a psychological edge most will never dare to use. But you're not most people. You're here to reshape the way your mind works, to become untouchable, emotionally armored, tactically brutal, intellectually superior. This isn't motivation. This is reprogramming. Before we go deeper, comment below, "My mind bends reality to my will." Say it out loud, type it like a contract with your future self. Let the weak aim for approval. You're here to take control. Number 1, the cold reality of power. Power isn't given, it's taken, usually in silence, often in shadows. You don't rise by being liked, you rise by being needed or feared. That's the cold law of Machiavelli. The world pretends it runs on kindness and fairness, but behind the curtain, it runs on leverage, calculation, and emotional detachment. The moment you stop seeking validation is the moment you start becoming dangerous. Understand this, emotions are tools, not truths. If they control you, you lose. If you control them, you win. The average man reacts. The Machiavellian man calculates. While others get distracted by feelings, you'll be playing 5 moves ahead. Quiet, focused, untouchable. Power is never about volume, it's about perception. If they see you as calm under pressure, unpredictable and unshaken, they won't test you. They'll respect you or fear you. Either works. Comment below, "I choose control over comfort." That's not just a mindset, it's a weapon. Keep that phrase like a dagger behind your back. And remember, in every room, someone's in control. If it's not you, then you're being played. Number 2, master the art of masks. If they know who you are, they can control you. That's why power wears a mask. Not sometimes, but always. The moment you let people see the full blueprint of your mind, you hand them the tools to dismantle you. The weak call it being real. The powerful call it stupidity. Machiavelli understood this long before social media turned everyone into a confession addict. He wrote that a leader must learn to be both beast and man, to appear virtuous while secretly wielding vice, to project honor while hiding hunger. Never reveal your true motives, never expose your emotional wiring. People don't want your truth, they want to use it. They scan your words, your tone, your tells. They don't listen to understand, they listen to predict. And prediction is the first step to control. That's why the mask is not a costume. It's armor. Smile when needed, agree when it buys silence, praise when it buys time, mirror their beliefs if it gives you access, but under no condition do you drop the mask. You are the illusionist, you set the narrative. Blend in when it's profitable, stand out only when you're untouchable, because real power doesn't scream, it whispers behind a mask. You want to be a ghost in their minds, a riddle wrapped in calm, someone they can't pin down, decode, or predict. You're not hiding, you're manipulating the lens they see you through. That's control at its highest level. Number 3 - leverage loyalty, exploit emotion. Loyalty is not real, it's a currency. And like any currency, it must be managed, manipulated, and, when necessary, weaponized. Never assume anyone is loyal to you. They're loyal to what you provide. Status, protection, advantage, illusion. When the benefit dies, so does their allegiance. Machiavelli warned that mercenaries, those who serve for reward, are dangerous, not because they betray easily, but because they never fight from principle. They fight for profit. So give them profit. Want loyalty? Make yourself useful. Make yourself feared. Make your absence more painful than your presence. People are emotional creatures. They think they follow logic, but they're slaves to fear, guilt, desire, and ego. Learn to pull those strings, study what they crave, then offer it conditionally, withdraw it strategically. Use praise to elevate, use silence to destabilize, use punishment only when it becomes necessary to make an example, but always let it feel justified. Emotionally charge your moves, but never let them see your hand. That's dark psychology, that's control. People want to believe they're choosing you. Make it feel like their decision. But behind the scenes, you choreograph everything. Guide their emotions, amplify their fears, reward their loyalty, not with love, but with calculated benefits. Because fear maintains order far longer than affection ever could. Comment below, I command loyalty through power. Let that phrase echo in your mindset. Every ally is a potential threat. Every follower is a potential rival. So you never trust blindly. You incentivize, you manipulate, and you always stay 2 moves ahead. Number 4, control the narrative or be controlled. Power doesn't just live in the fist, it lives in narrative. The most dangerous man in the room isn't the one who's the strongest. It's the one who controls the story everyone else believes. Because once the narrative is shaped, logic collapses, emotion takes over, and emotion is the lever that moves masses, wins wars, and buries rivals. Understand this. People don't respond to reality. They respond to framing. Their perception of you is more important than your actual identity. You can be brilliant, but if they perceive you as weak, you'll be ignored. You can be brutal, but if they perceive you as just, they'll follow. Power is perception, and perception is a product of strategy. Machiavelli made it brutally clear, it is not necessary for a ruler to possess all the virtues people admire. It is only necessary to appear to possess them. Mercy, loyalty, honesty. Display them when it's useful. Fake them when it's required. Discard them when they become liabilities. Never forget, the masses don't see the machinery of power. They only see the mask, and you control that mask. You must become a master of optical warfare. Decide how you want to be seen, then sculpt every interaction, every response, every silence to fit that image. Never let them see behind the curtain. If people think you're in control, you are. If they think you're losing grip, even when you're not, you're done. In this game, perception is reality, and narrative is the battlefield. Control how others speak about you. Feed them selected truths. Let them believe what benefits you. If you must be seen as humble, engineer it. If you must be seen as ruthless, give them a taste, just enough to keep them guessing. The goal is not to be understood. The goal is to be unpredictable and unforgettable. Manipulate the narrative even in your silence. Say less and let their minds fill in the gaps. Human nature fears what it can't explain, and fear breeds respect faster than charm ever will. That's why the most powerful men often say the least, not because they're quiet, but because silence is a calculated move. Now, don't confuse narrative control with lying. That's amateur work. This is deeper. This is about emotional architecture, building a psychological environment where everything said about you plays into your intended mythos. You don't fight rumors head-on. You replace them with stronger narratives. You don't deny weakness. You overshadow it with a more compelling presence. Whether you're in a negotiation, a relationship, a leadership role, or a simple conversation, understand, the first to frame the story controls the outcome. Be the first to define who you are, what you're about, and what the rules of engagement are. Speak with ruthless precision. Control your tone like a scalpel. Every word should either build your legend or destroy your opponent's frame. Comment below, I define how the world sees me. Say it again and again, until it stops sounding like a mantra and starts sounding like a law, because it is. Remember this truth. If you don't control your own narrative, someone else will, and they'll twist it, mutilate it, weaponize it, and the world won't question it. Because the world rarely cares about the truth. It feeds on the version that's most useful, most entertaining, almost emotionally charged. So you have two options: write the story or be written out of it. Number 5, detach from emotion, dominate with logic. Emotion is the original form of slavery. It feels real, it feels powerful, but left unchecked, it becomes a leash wrapped tightly around your neck. Every man has felt it, that burning rage, that cold silence after betrayal, the high from praise, the sting of rejection. But here's the truth the world won't tell you: if they can trigger you, they can control you. That's why detachment isn't a weakness, it's a weapon. You want to win in every situation? Then your first mission is this: kill emotional impulse. Destroy that automatic urge to react. The moment someone else can pull a string and predict your response, you're already compromised, and they know it. The manipulator always tests for reaction before they strike. If you flinch, show pain, or reveal ego, you just handed them the blueprint to your mind. Emotion is data, not direction. Your anger, a signal, not a command. Your fear, a warning, not a prison. Your envy, a reflection, not a truth. The strong man doesn't suppress emotion. He studies it, like a general studies enemy movement. He watches it rise, lets it speak, and then buries it beneath calculated action. Calm isn't natural, it's engineered, forged in the furnace of conscious restraint. Machiavelli understood the illusion of virtue. He wrote that a prince must appear merciful, faithful, humane, but internally be prepared to act against all of it. Why? Because in power dynamics, those who operate from emotion are fodder for those who operate from logic. Most men will swing wildly, cry out, break down, and expose themselves, all in the name of feeling. But you will remain still, cold, focused. When someone disrespects you, you don't retaliate. You calculate, you watch, you store information, because real retaliation doesn't come from emotion. It comes from leverage. If someone lies to you, you don't react. You smile, you wait, and when the moment is right, you move, not out of hurt, but out of strategy. Emotion tells you to speak. Logic tells you when to be silent. Emotion makes you defend yourself. Logic reminds you that silence is sometimes a more dangerous weapon. Emotion wants to be seen. Logic wants to win. The modern world tells you to express yourself. That's how they get you. They want your mind exposed, your patterns revealed, your weaknesses on display. Once they can predict how you feel, they can predict what you'll do. And once they can predict what you'll do, you're no longer a threat. You want to be unpredictable? Then bury your emotions. Or better, own them without letting them move you. Study the feeling, identify it, then put it down like a tool you don't need yet. This is what it means to rule your mind instead of being ruled by it. Train this every day. When someone cuts you off in traffic, observe, don't react. When someone disrespects you in public, analyze, don't explode. When someone challenges your identity, smile like it doesn't even reach your radar. Why? Because they want your attention. They want to control the frame. Don't give them that power. Control the frame with silence. This isn't just about emotional control. This is about operating from logic, always. Logic is surgical. It's objective. It doesn't care about your history, your trauma, or your mood. It cares about outcome. And in a world ruled by chaos and noise, the man who moves like a chess grandmaster, slow, quiet, and 3 moves ahead, becomes a king. Most men will never reach this level. They'll always be puppets. Puppets to lust, puppets to anger, puppets to insecurity. They'll think they're being real, but they're just being predictable. Emotional men are noisy. Logical men are deadly. Here's the truth. You'll be called cold. You'll be misunderstood. They'll say you're heartless, arrogant, detached. Let them. While they chase acceptance, you'll be building empires. While they cry over betrayal, you'll be restructuring your position. While they burn bridges, you'll be building influence with surgical timing. Detach from outcome. Detach from the need to win every interaction. That's ego. Let it die. When you no longer need to prove anything, you become untouchable. your silence becomes unsettling. Your presence becomes unpredictable. Your logic becomes feared. Comment below, I respond with logic. I move without emotion. Write it, repeat it, live it. That phrase isn't a mantra, it's psychological armor. Every time you feel yourself reacting, pause and remember it. Every time your ego flares up, every time you're tempted to speak out of pride, stop, reroute, stay cold. This level of control isn't for the average man. It's not easy, and that's exactly why it's powerful. You're not here to be average, you're here to dominate. Strategically, quietly, intelligently. They will never see it coming. Because while they bleed their emotions out in public, you'll be moving silently in the background, detached, calculated, and already 5 steps ahead. Number 6, build fear as a weapon, not a flaw. Fear is one of the most misunderstood forces in human psychology. The average man is taught to avoid it. He's conditioned to see fear as a flaw, a sickness, a sign of weakness. But that conditioning is exactly what keeps him small, obedient, emotional, predictable. Here's the truth no one dares to say out loud. Fear is power. Not just the fear you feel, but more importantly, the fear you create in others. You want to win in every situation. Then fear must become your ally. You must stop seeing it as something to escape and start seeing it as something to wield. Fear, when controlled, becomes psychological dominance. It creates hesitation in your enemies. It silences disloyalty. It forces compliance without having to lift a finger. Machiavelli, as always, cut through the lies of society when he wrote, "It is much safer to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." Why? Because love is based on emotion, and emotion fades. Fear, on the other hand, remains. Fear lingers in the mind like a shadow. It creates space around you. It makes people think twice before they move against you. You don't need to become a tyrant. That's where most men get it wrong. They equate fear with aggression. They think shouting, threatening, or lashing out makes them powerful. It doesn't. That makes you predictable. It makes you loud. It makes you a fool with no self-control. Real fear, the kind that elevates a man above the herd, is quiet, calm, controlled. True fear is built through discipline and mystery. It's not what you say. It's what you don't say. It's not how you act when everything's fine. It's how you react when you're disrespected. When others would explode, you stay silent. When others would argue, you observe. That silence, it makes people uncomfortable. That stillness, it makes them question your limits. That unpredictability, it makes them afraid to guess. You must learn to weaponize your presence. Walk into a room with no need to impress, no desperation for approval, just calm intent. Stand straight, breathe slow, speak little. People fear what they cannot read, and unreadable men become magnets for both curiosity and caution. You don't need to posture, you don't need to prove. Your aura does the work. Fear isn't about making people tremble in terror, it's about mental control. It's about being the one they subconsciously don't want to disappoint, test, or oppose. It's the way you respond to pressure, the way you enforce boundaries, the way you move on without explanation when someone violates your code. That's how you build your myth. That's how your name begins to carry weight long before you arrive. A man who cannot command fear will never hold real power. He will always be subject to manipulation by friends, women, co-workers, competitors. He'll overextend himself trying to be liked. He'll make decisions from a place of guilt, shame, or pressure. And one day, he'll look around and realize no one actually respects him. They've just learned how to use him. That's not leadership. That's submission. Now let's be clear. Fear without respect becomes resentment. You're not here to bully. You're here to command. That means having control over your emotions, your energy, and your environment. That means being measured, strategic, unshakable. A powerful man sets the standard with his energy, not his ego. He doesn't react emotionally. He responds with timing. He doesn't punish out of anger. he calculates. When someone crosses him, the consequence is silent but absolute. He doesn't fight, he removes access, he withdraws presence, he isolates disrespect and lets it rot in silence. That punishment is more terrifying than rage because it's clean, it's final, and it teaches others that you are not a man to play with. This is how reputations are built, not through clout, not through boasting, through presence, through how you deal with disloyalty, through how you handle confrontation, and through your ability to remain unshaken while others lose control. Want to know how powerful fear is? Think about the last time you hesitated around someone, not because they were loud, but because they were calm, because you didn't know what they were thinking, because they didn't react the way you expected. That uncertainty, that hesitation in your gut, that's the power of a man who understands psychological dominance. Now imagine becoming that man. You must train yourself to become the unknown variable in every room. Not chaotic, but unreadable. Not aggressive, but sovereign. Let people wonder where your line is. Let them question what you're capable of. Let them learn from observation, not warning. Because once you build that aura, you rarely have to enforce it. People will discipline themselves for you. Comment below, "My presence commands fear, not approval." Repeat it like a vow. Let it burn into your mind. You are not here to be liked. That's the mindset of a servant. You are here to create psychological weight, so when you speak, people listen, and when you move, they react. Fear isn't about domination for the sake of ego. It's about securing your space. It's about protecting your time, your mind, your vision. When people fear crossing you, your life becomes simpler, quieter, and more focused. No noise, no games, no drama, just respect, earned in silence, not begged for in words. This is where you separate from average men. They chase validation, they over-explain, they try to convince. You don't need to convince anyone. Your presence does the talking, your discipline sets the boundary, and your silence delivers the final message. When your reputation for silence, precision, and emotional detachment precedes you, the world adjusts to you. That's not intimidation, that's influence, that's cold power. So build it, own it, protect it. And remember, when people fear disappointing you more than they fear losing you, you've already won. Number 7, never reveal your entire hand. Predictability is vulnerability. The more they know, the more they can use. The more they can use, the more you bleed. Slowly, quietly, and with your own words as the blade. Let this sink in. Every time you reveal your full intention, you forfeit leverage. Most people live like open books. They talk too much. They explain too much. They seek validation. They tell the world their goals, their weaknesses, their wounds, then wonder why they're always being outmaneuvered, outplayed, and betrayed. Here's why. They handed the enemy the playbook and called it honesty. That ends with you. You are not here to be transparent. You are here to be strategic. Machiavelli wrote it plainly. A prudent man should always follow in the footsteps of great men and imitate those who have been supreme. And the supreme men, the kings, the tacticians, the rulers, always conceal more than they reveal. They say less than they know. They hold back even when they're winning, because mystery is control, and control is survival. If they don't know your limits, they won't test them. If they don't know your next move, they can't counter it. If they don't know your true priorities, they can't use them against you. That's the power of concealment. It's not just about silence, it's about being deliberate with what you show and when you show it. Most men give everything away too early. In a conversation, they overshare to feel accepted. In business, they over-explain to look competent. In relationships, they overcommit to feel secure. And every time they do this, they become more exposed. Easier to predict, easier to influence, easier to destroy. You must learn to play the long game. Don't reveal your destination, only your direction. Don't explain your vision. Demonstrate it through actions that confuse and intrigue. Keep people guessing, not out of arrogance, but out of tactical necessity. When people don't know what's coming next, they hesitate. And in that hesitation, you dominate. Your power lies in your opacity. This doesn't mean you isolate yourself or become vague in everything. It means you build layers. You decide what image to present and what truth to protect. You give people just enough to stay curious, never enough to gain control. This is psychological warfare, not confession hour. Every social interaction is a power play. Whether you're negotiating, dating, managing a team, or walking into a room full of strangers, someone is assessing your cards. Are you a threat? Are you useful? Are you emotional? Are you desperate? Most men show all their cards in the first few moves and wonder why they lose the game. Here's the rule. Never reveal your entire hand. Let people underestimate you. Let them misread your silence. Let them think you're simpler than you are. Meanwhile, you're watching, calculating, recording. Every person you meet is a data point. The more they speak, the more they reveal, not you. Ask more, talk less, listen relentlessly. When they ask you a direct question, answer with direction, not with detail. If they pressure you for specifics, reframe. Never get cornered into clarity you didn't authorize. That's not being evasive. That's being sovereign over your information. In war, intelligence is more valuable than artillery. In life, information control is more powerful than charisma. That's the dark truth the average man never learns. He's too eager to show his hand because he thinks being open builds trust. But real trust, the kind that commands loyalty and respect, is built through controlled strength, not vulnerability. Comment below. Power is preserved through mystery. Type it, say it, own it. This isn't paranoia. This is preparation. You're not hiding who you are. You're managing what they're allowed to see. You need to develop selective transparency. Know when to open the curtain just an inch. Show strength in moments that look unintentional. Let your wins speak louder than your plans. When they think they understand your game, change the rules. When they expect fire, give them ice. When they lean in, pull back. You're not being cruel. You're being in control. Even in close relationships, this rule holds. In fact, especially there. The more someone believes they fully understand you, the less they respect your mystery. And when mystery dies, so does intrigue. You don't need to lie, just learn to withhold. The strongest men in the world are those who speak the truth, but never the whole truth. Not out of fear, out of tactical discipline. Mystery forces others to come to you, to ask, to guess, to chase. And once they're chasing, they've already given up the high ground. You're leading without ever having to announce it. Your influence grows in the absence of explanation. You want to be unforgettable, be hard to define. The predictable man is useful for a while, then discarded. But the man who keeps something back, the man whose motives aren't obvious, the man whose energy is controlled and direction is unclear, that man becomes a threat. And threats are either eliminated or respected. When you combine mystery with restraint, you become the kind of man others don't try to figure out. They just move out of his way. You don't owe the world your plan. You don't owe anyone your full intention. You owe yourself the upper hand, always. That's how you win. Number 8, turn isolation into strategic advantage. Isolation is not a weakness, it's not loneliness, it's not a sign that you're failing. Isolation, when embraced correctly, is where the foundation of true power is built. Most men are terrified of being alone. They think if they're not surrounded by noise, attention, or validation, then they're losing. That's because they've been raised on distraction, fed by external approval, addicted to the feeling of being seen. But here's the cold truth. A man who needs constant company will never hold power. He will always be tethered, emotionally, socially, and mentally, to the whims of others. You must flip the script. You must learn to see solitude not as scarcity, but as a resource, a controlled environment where distractions die clarity rises, and psychological transformation takes place. While they chase parties, notifications, group chats, validation loops, you pull back, not to isolate from weakness, but to prepare for domination. Isolation is a forging chamber. It's where vision becomes sharp, where ideas become strategies, where emotion dies and discipline is born. Machiavelli didn't write The Prince in a palace surrounded by applause. He wrote it in exile, alone, rejected, banished. And in that silence, he crafted one of the most lethal documents in power psychology. Why? Because isolation forced him to think like a ruler, not a follower. Apply the same. Your isolation is not punishment. It is refinement. Step back from your circle. Detach from low-value conversations. Pull yourself out of the noise. Do this long enough, and you'll begin to hear something rare, your own mind. Most people never hear their true voice. It's buried beneath algorithms, gossip, distraction, and external expectation. But when the noise fades and your environment tightens to silence, something strange happens. You begin to realize how many of your ideas weren't yours, how many of your goals were borrowed, how much of your life was designed by the world, not by your will. And that realization is where power begins. In isolation, you regain mental sovereignty. You start questioning everything, and through questioning, you reclaim authority over your life. You begin to separate your identity from influence. You stop chasing attention and start chasing intention. That shift, that's psychological awakening. That's the foundation of the untouchable man. But here's the difference between solitude and escapism. Solitude is strategic. It's scheduled. It's built into your operating system. You don't run away from the world. You retreat to prepare your return. That's the key. Weak men isolate to avoid. Powerful men isolate to build. You build in silence because noise dilutes clarity. You plan in private because visibility invites interference. You train in the dark because the spotlight blinds the undisciplined. You sharpen your routines, refine your focus, elevate your emotional control, all in the stillness that only isolation allows. While others are out wasting time, you're in the shadows learning new skills, reading war strategy, studying body language, writing out contingency plans, practicing restraint, testing silence. Every hour you spend alone, focused, structured, undistracted, is an hour your competition is losing ground. But you must be ready for what isolation brings. When you're alone long enough, the mask slips, your distractions vanish, and all that's left is you versus you, the real battle. You will face your insecurities, your inner critic, your fears. That's where most run back to the comfort of company. Because facing yourself without distraction is like staring into a mirror that never blinks. But if you can survive that confrontation, if you can endure that purification by fire, you emerge stronger than most will ever become. You become mentally self-sufficient. You stop needing approval. You stop explaining your moves. You become a man who can make decisions in silence, execute without applause, and lead without consensus. And that kind of man, he becomes a myth. Comment below, I sharpen my mind in silence, not noise. Say it. Believe it. That is not a motivational phrase. It is a commandment of the elite. Because the world fears men who no longer require its validation. A man who can disappear and build himself in solitude cannot be threatened. He can be ignored, mocked, underestimated, but never controlled. That's what makes solitude so terrifying to average minds, because it breeds independence, and independence creates unpredictability. And in a world built on social control, a man who can sit alone in silence is more dangerous than an army of men shouting in the streets. Let me make this clear. Distance creates clarity. When you step back, patterns reveal themselves. You begin to see who's loyal and who's draining, who adds value and who adds volume. You identify manipulation. You learn what conversations are beneath you. You see how often you've tolerated low standards just to stay connected. And then you cut. Isolation grants you the ruthlessness necessary to purge weakness from your circle. You'll lose people. Good. Let them go. Solitude exposes those who only stuck around when you were available, agreeable, and entertaining. Once you go quiet, they disappear. Let them. Your silence is a filter. What remains, that's your real circle. Or sometimes your clarity that you never had one. Even in relationships, romantic, business, or otherwise, solitude remains your weapon. Why? Because a man who doesn't fear walking away cannot be manipulated. He doesn't argue, he doesn't beg, he doesn't compromise under pressure, he simply exits. And exits with silence hurt far more than words. And when you return from your silence, the world will feel your shift. You'll walk into rooms with weight, not because you're louder, but because your energy is disciplined. Your mind, once distracted, is now locked. Your words, once wasted, are now weapons. Your presence, once diluted by approval-seeking, now feels untouchable. They'll ask where you went, what you were doing. You won't need to answer. The results will be speaking for you. That's the difference between noise and power. Power doesn't announce its comeback. It just returns, evolved. Start treating solitude as a training ground. Schedule it. Structure it. Make it non-negotiable. 1 hour a day. 1 day a week. Periods of going dark on purpose. This is how you build internal dominance. This is how you make your mind impenetrable. While the masses drown in overstimulation, you will sit in stillness, designing your next move with cold precision. When they burn out from constant noise, you'll strike with the clarity of a man who's been waiting patiently in the dark. Remember this: silence is your sanctuary. Isolation is your laboratory. Solitude is your superpower. Number 9, become untouchable. You've walked through every law. You've stripped the weakness from your mind and studied the truth that most men will never face. Now, one question remains. Will you become untouchable? This isn't a metaphor. It's not a slogan. It's not about being better. It's about being beyond reach, mentally, emotionally, and strategically. To be untouchable means no one can break your rhythm, bend your will, or disturb your psychological armor. You don't just survive this world, you shape it. Understand this: in a world built on manipulation, distraction, and emotional slavery, the man who cannot be moved is the man who rules. The man who is calm while others panic, silent while others scream, calculated while others react. That man? He becomes a ghost in the system, a sovereign entity, a walking edge. But becoming untouchable doesn't happen by accident. It's not something you inherit. It's something you construct, brick by brick, discipline by discipline. Every law you've learned was a blueprint. This question mark, this is the final structure. Let's break it down and lock it in. First, you've learned to detach from emotion. That was the first fracture in your old identity. Emotion ruled you. It made you impulsive, weak, reactive. But now you've stopped being owned by anger, lust, insecurity, and fear. You see emotion for what it is: data, not direction. You feel it, analyze it, then execute logically. That one shift alone separates you from 90% of men walking the earth. Second, you've mastered perception. You know now that truth means nothing without control of the frame. You don't just exist, you project. You craft the version of yourself that best serves your goals. Reputation becomes leverage. Image becomes influence. You've stopped trying to be real, and instead, you became strategic. You decide what people see, what they hear, what they never know. And that mystery, it breeds power. Third, you learned to wear the mask. You understood that the world is not a place for full transparency. It's a game of mirrors, angles, and illusion. The man who shows everything gets played. The man who holds his cards becomes the dealer. You've become a master of emotional concealment. You give just enough to guide, never enough to expose. You've trained your face, your tone, your timing. You are unreadable, and that alone makes you terrifying to those who depend on knowing what comes next. Fourth, you've internalized the value of fear. Not fear you feel, but fear you project. Not aggression, not ego. Just pure, cold, psychological pressure. You move without threats. You punish with silence. You set boundaries with absence. You don't beg for respect. You command it through discipline, detachment, and unpredictability. That's why you're respected or feared long before you speak. Your presence speaks first. Fifth, you have made isolation your fortress. You no longer run from solitude. You've sat in silence and faced yourself. Where others run to noise, you retreat to focus. You've replaced stimulation with strategy. While others search for belonging, you became your own foundation. You train alone, you think alone, you build in the dark. And when you emerge, you move with the power of a man who doesn't need anyone to validate him. Sixth, you've learned to never reveal your full hand. You don't overshare. You don't over-explain. You don't seek understanding. You protect your inner world like a vault. You keep your next move quiet, your plans concealed, your priorities hidden. Because power isn't just about what you do, it's about what you withhold. What they don't know, they can't use. Now pause and ask yourself, what kind of man lives like this? He's not average. He's not common. He's not swayed by popularity, trends, or applause. He's untouchable. Not because he's loud, but because his power is quiet, grounded, disciplined. He's felt pain and didn't break. He's faced betrayal and didn't fold. He's been underestimated and used it to his advantage. That's you. Untouchable doesn't mean you're invincible. You still feel, you still bleed, but no one sees it. No one controls it. That's the difference. The pain you feel is processed through strategy. The obstacles you face are solved with stoic logic. The attacks you endure are turned into leverage. Comment below, I am untouchable, built in silence, moved by strategy, feared by design. Say it again. Because this isn't motivation, it's declaration. When you walk into a room now, you don't look for approval. You study, you scan, you calculate. You are not chasing, you are choosing. Choosing where to invest energy, who to give access, what to ignore, what to destroy. This is control, real control, internal control, and it reflects in every external move you make. Let them talk, let them guess, let them project. You won't explain, you don't need to. You've become something most people can't label. And that's the point. When they can't define you, they can't disarm you. When they can't predict you, they can't prepare for you. You are a question mark wearing calm, a strategy wrapped in skin. You've become a presence, a frequency, a force. They'll feel it when you enter. They'll remember it when you leave. And they'll never forget that they couldn't control you. That's untouchable. Now here's the final warning. Do not fall back. Do not let this become information. Turn it into identity. Revisit these laws weekly. Memorize them. Speak them. Live them. Discipline is not built in a day. It's carved through repetition. Every time you apply one of these principles, you harden the frame. You reinforce the structure. You become more dangerous, more calm, more strategic. And eventually, you reach a point where the world can't reach you. Not emotionally, not mentally, not strategically. You'll watch chaos unfold in others while you move in stillness. You'll see the games, the manipulation, the bait, and smile. Because you've outgrown all of it. You're not reacting anymore. You're orchestrating. You're not chasing peace. You've become the source of pressure. This is the end of weakness. This is the beginning of sovereignty. Welcome to your new identity. Welcome to being untouchable. Now drop your final comment below. I am untouchable. Cold mind, sharp strategy, no weakness. And if this entire monologue rewired your mind, like, subscribe, hit the bell. This isn't your average channel. This is Psygrythm, where power is built, not borrowed. Where men are not inspired, they are forged. And this is just the beginning.